It is the Banner Baseball Show. Paul Mancano and Andy Kostka here on a Wednesday afternoon in June. Andy, you got a much needed day off yesterday after a long weekend, a wraparound series in St. Petersburg, Florida. Looked like you were getting up to some nice breweries. You're getting about town in Tampa Bay.
You know, St. Petersburg is an underrated city. Um,
Really?
stay in this Grand Central neighborhood, historic Kenwood. They got great breweries there. Cannot recommend it enough.
If
Luckily,
anybody knows a good brewery, it's Andy Kostka.
I hope so. That's kind of one of my only personality traits. But no, and you have the run of the place because there's no Tampa Bay fans to worry about. So
There
it's
we
wide
go.
open for me. So.
Yeah. Just don't end up like Rakabako, who enjoys going to the Trop because he said, nobody bothers him. Everything's no rain delays. Everything's temperature controlled. He just removes the entire humanity from, the entire experience, which is, life.
I will say Monday night in St. Petersburg in the eighth inning, it began to pour like so heavily during the eighth inning, and I was just sitting here thinking, it's pretty lucky we're in the dome right now because the O's are trying to fly
Yeah.
home. We're trying to finish this game. It would be a rain delay right now, but luckily dome. It only made me wet on the walk home, not during the
There
game.
we go. Yeah. Just don't turn into one of those people that prefers domes on every stadium. It's nice every now and again in certain climates, but
I, I
never
use
have another Camden Yards.
I don't mind a rain delay. Usually it's totally fine as long as there's communication from the club staffs about what that looks like. But
Yeah.
um, you
That's
know, I,
that's been the biggest issue this year.
I get a lot of football manager time in when there's rain delays.
There we go.
Yeah, just got Bristol City promoted to the Premier League. It's maybe the biggest accomplishment of my life.
That's huge. You tweeted that out, AF Koska. That was an interesting notification that came across my timeline this morning. Today we're going to talk about the Baltimore Orioles and their 5-game win streak. We're also going to touch on an injury to a key reliever and what we saw from Connor Norby in his short stint in the big leagues so far. But first, Andy, the Orioles are blistering hot. 5 in a row. They completed a 4-game sweep of the Rays in Tampa, which you were there for. They're on day 13 of a 17-game breakless stretch. They don't have an off day until this coming Monday. Then they go on another stretch where they don't have an off day for the remainder of June. This is just, I hate to be that guy that is just complaining about the schedule, but this is an absurd stretch that they're on. Facing the Rays, the Blue Jays, the Rays again, the Braves, and then the Phillies. Then they have their off day on Monday, and then they face the Yankees, the Astros, the Guardians, and the Rangers to close out the month of June. And despite all of that, they are still 44-22. They're playing like one of the best teams in baseball. Brandon Hyde is managing this team through this incredibly difficult stretch right now.
Yeah, well, they are one of the best teams in baseball, and I think a lot of it goes to the pitching staff.
Yeah.
And obviously, there was so much consternation from the fan base about what this pitching staff looks like. Kyle Bradish, was injured this offseason. They added Corbin Burns, but there was talk like, oh, we didn't do enough to this rotation. Who knew that Albert Suarez was going to crop up and be such a pivotal piece of this rotation / bullpen when he moves kind of back and forth sometimes. But right now, rotation, he's been great. And you look at Cole Irvin compared to last season, the Cole Irvin of this year is better than ever. He's having a career year this time around, and who knows how long this continues. It can be there's a lot of things that crop up as teams figure out pitchers what their new arsenals look like, things like that, what they're trying to accomplish. They adapt back, but this is a really well-rounded rotation right now, and honestly the bullpen has been terrific as well. If you take in I see you have right here, right there, the third best ERA in baseball for the rotation. Well, if you just take the overall ERA for the entire pitching staff, it's the second best in the majors at 3.10. So the bullpen has done its job as well. Of course, we're going to have some question marks because, as you mentioned, uh, the key injury in the bullpen that we discovered yesterday. But overall, even without a major addition to the bullpen yet, and I know Ken Rosenthal of The Athletic reported today that the Orioles are very much weighing their options in the bullpen for potential trades and things of that nature. We could expect that. That is not a surprise, but Ken Rosenthal confirmed that they're looking for bullpen help, which isn't a surprise. That is it would really just be bolstering a group that has performed at a super high level. We'll see how long it can continue because there has been now we're looking at Danny Coulombe out for at least 2 weeks. Who knows how that looks. Tyler Wells out for the season. John Means out for the season. That has some trickle down effect. Instead of Albert Suarez pitching out of the bullpen, he's in the starting rotation. Instead of Cole Irvin out of the bullpen, he is rightly in the rotation. But that was an option to have him as another bullpen arm. So we'll see. But at least we're June 12. We're under 100 games to go. Barely, like 97 to go. Things are looking great, and the Baltimore is behind the Yankees, but this is going to be a hard fought finish with a tremendous lineup that I didn't even mention the lineup in that whole spiel, but tremendous pitching so far too. So yeah, I think they're proving that they're one of the best teams of baseball.
Yeah, you mentioned just how well rounded they are, and the offense certainly is doing its part. Last night they get win number one in this series against the Braves because of a combination of the starters and the relievers. They shut them out 4-0. I know the Braves were scuffling, but that's still one of the better teams in all of baseball, one of the better lineups in all of baseball. They're fourth in bullpen ERA. They are third in starter ERA. Now, this is an Orioles franchise that over the last couple decades have had some very good relievers and some very good bullpens in general. You obviously think of most recently last year with Felix Bautista and Yennier Cano, but even the teams of the 2010s with Zach Britton and Darren O'Day and Michael Givens even. But this is a franchise that has not had good starting pitching in decades. The last time the Orioles finished a season top 10 in ERA by their starting rotation was 1997. Last time they finished in the top 5 was 1979. This is a team that has not had good starting pitching in a long, long time. And it's almost difficult to put in perspective because we haven't seen it in so long, just how good the starting pitching has been. And to go through this stretch, like you said, down Means, you're down Tyler Wells, and to still have one of the best rotations in all of baseball. They're only behind the Phillies and the Yankees. And it's no surprise that those are probably the three best teams in baseball right now in the Phillies, Yankees, and Orioles. Grayson's got a 3.27 ERA. Irvin having a career year, 2.87 ERA. Kyle Bradish, after missing a month, has a 2.62 ERA. And Albert Suarez, a 1.61 at this point. Even despite missing Kyle Bradish, this rotation has been phenomenal. And it starts at the top with Corbin Burnes. I don't think it's any stretch to say that Corbin Burnes is the best starting pitcher that the Orioles have had, maybe since Mike Mussina. It has been that long since they have had an ace of this caliber. And I've heard some wailing and some gnashing of teeth from Orioles fans about wanting to let him go deeper into games. He has been the definition of consistency and dependability so far this year. A 2.08 ERA in 86 and 2/3 innings. His whip is just a tick over 1. His StatCast page is just all red entirely. It's like the BaltimoreBanner.com where you can subscribe $1 for 6 months. It's completely red front to back. He has been phenomenal. He has not had a single start this season where he has gone fewer than 5 2/3. He's gone at least 6 innings in 9 straight games. He hasn't allowed more than 3 earned runs in a single start this year. He hasn't walked more than 3 batters in a single start this year. And he's doing this all with throwing just 100 pitches in 2 starts this year. He's an ace. He is the definition of an ace. I know it's an ace in 2024 isn't quite what an ace was when Jim Palmer was pitching, or even 20 years ago when these guys were throwing 250 to 300 innings. But Andy, Corbin Burnes is an ace with a capital A.
Yeah, capital C and E as well. He's an absolute ace. Is what
All
he is.
caps. Yeah.
All caps.
Do you like my red pun? The R-E-D, R-E-A-D is what I was going for. Like the what's black and white but red all over.
That's actually, it was
Newspaper.
It was
Yeah,
pretty
thanks.
good, but it did take me a couple
Takes you a
seconds.
second, yeah.
As you were describing that, I was like, oh, but I got there in the end, and
It's a
hopefully,
thinker.
yeah, it's a thinker. It's not a stinker.
Thank
Yeah,
goodness.
pretty good. You know who else is not a stinker? Corbin Burnes. He's pretty dang good.
He's pretty dang good, yeah.
Yeah, 9 straight quality starts is the most from an Orioles pitcher since Eric Bedard in 2007, I believe. So it's been a little while since something like this. Jim Palmer has the most consecutive quality starts since 1954 when Baltimore got its team. That is 12, very within reach. And I think what you love as a manager about Corbin Burnes, you can go out there and you can say to your bullpen, hey, you two, I'm not touching you tonight. You guys get rest. You two, I'm probably not going to tonight. And with a 7-man bullpen right now with 6 starters, it's really important to have length. And I know it's not the length of old. It's not the 8 innings, 120. It's not the Kyle, Gibson, Jordan Lyles. I'm going to eat innings for the boys. I'm going to throw 115 pitches. You're kind of you getting 6 innings out of him, 6 phenomenal innings with 3 runs or fewer. And with this offense, you should win every single game that he's on the mound. And when the games begin to matter most, you have a long way to go. Like, he has another 20 starts this year, probably.
Yeah.
You need him healthy. He's with this team for 1 year before he hits the open market, and you better have a healthy Corbin Burnes heading into, especially if this team is a wild card team. You better have that game 1 of the wild card, Corbin Burnes on the mound, and you can expect to win that game 1 of the wild card. And that is it's absolutely vital. If they win the division, same thing. You need a guy like that on the mound, because we saw last year against the Texas Rangers. Texas had a Jordan Montgomery that they could roll out, and I guess he pitched game 2. But whatever it was, maybe it was game 1. It's all blurring, but he set a tone. He was kind of a stopper that immediately said, "Hey, you're not scoring on us. We're gonna let the reins loose, and you're gonna throw 110 pitches over 7 innings, and then we turn it over to our 2 best bullpen arms, which one of them may be acquired at the deadline." That is what you need in October, September in a pennant race. Right now, you will take 6 innings every single game, and he's giving it to them every single game. 6 quality innings. This is it's such a breath of fresh air for this rotation too. You can practically start right in your lead when you sit down and you see Corbin Burnes walk out there, and you're just like, "Yep, okay, it's gonna be a good start. It's gonna be a good start."
It's just a breath of fresh air for a franchise that has been missing this caliber pitcher too. And you make the comparison to last year's team. That was what the Orioles lacked. I mean, Kyle Bradish was phenomenal in his first full season in the big leagues, and he got Cy Young votes. But they didn't have a capital A ace to start in game 1. And once Bradish went down and lost in game 1, and John Means ended up not being on the ALDS roster because of injury, the Orioles were suddenly turning to Dean Kramer in a must-win game 3. They obviously had rookie Grayson Rodriguez in a must-win game 2. Those guys should all be better this year. If Kyle Bradish, is healthy enough to pitch, hopefully in the playoffs, he will be a better pitcher for his experience. Grayson Rodriguez, the same. But now you have Corbin Burnes at the top of that, and you only have him for the 1 year. You're assuming you're not going to re-sign him at this point. You only have him in-house for 1 October. He better pitch in that October, and I imagine that the Orioles are going to let him go as long as he needs to go, and as long as they need him to go in a must-win playoff game, a wild card game, an ALDS game. that is when we will see Corbin Burnes throw over 100 pitches, maybe over 110 pitches. But in the meantime, just get him there. Just get him to the end of the season healthy. And once you get in those difficult situations, that's when you just let the reins go on your guy.
Here's a question for you.
Sure.
Do the Orioles re-sign Corbin Burnes? And do you think it's even possible? Because you have to think he's not going to sign a deal during the season. He's not that kind of guy. He's a Boras client. They don't want that kind of distraction. And he's said it before. He does not want the distraction during the season of a contract negotiation.
Yeah.
He's going to the open market. Baltimore has new ownership, but we have no idea what that means. If that they have T. Rowe Price money now. And, John Mioli can tell us all about the benefits of T. Rowe Price money when he's not writing great columns for the Banner. That is maybe helpful that you have a billionaire at the top, but we don't know if they're going to splash the cash yet for a 7 to 10 year contract for Corbin Burnes, which is probably what he would go for.
It's all going to come down to. Yeah, it's all going to come down to this new ownership group. We've seen David Rubenstein. If he is throwing around contracts the way he's throwing around hats to fans and the concourse of Camden Yards, then you can count on them re-signing him. But I think we just have no barometer for how this new ownership group is going to spend. And I think that Orioles fans would be probably more inclined to say, let's extend the guys that we have in-house, the young guys like Gunnar Henderson and Adley Rutschman, before we get to the free agents. But he's got to top your list. Corbin Burnes does in terms of wish list, because what hasn't he done this year that you've asked of him? He has been phenomenal. He would change your rotation and give you something to build on for years to come. We just have no idea what kind of contracts. Also, look at two recent free agent signings in the starting pitching market. Look at Jordan Montgomery and Blake Snell, both guys who waited probably too long to sign deals and had to settle for worse deals and are now going through difficult 2024 seasons. Are starting pitchers going to learn from that experience, want to sign earlier so that they can get longer deals? Because those two guys, Montgomery and Snell, they played the market incorrectly in my mind, because those guys waited too long and they didn't get the kind of deals that they wanted. I think Corbin Burnes is going to want to sign earlier, and he's going to want to sign for a lot more years and dollars than both Montgomery and Snell, but we'll see.
Here's another question. Sorry, I'm totally taking
You're just hijacking this podcast.
Taking your job. With the glut of pitching injuries and elbow injuries.
Sure.
Baltimore has proven that its player development system can develop hitters, and really good hitters. I mean, you're looking at Adley, Gunnar. Jackson is going to be here at some point. Is going to be great in his career. Jordan Westberg, Connor Norby, who we'll get to more. This is a. I mean, I'm missing out on Colton Cowser. I could keep going and keep going and keep going.
Yeah.
They have proven that they can develop really good hitters. Do they feel like, can they develop pitching well enough that they can really have their resources on, hey, we're going to extend all our really good homegrown hitters and then rely on cheaper, homegrown talent before they hit free agency, pitchers, especially when here you just lost John Means and Tyler Wells for the year. Knock on wood. I mean, that it seems like it could happen to anybody at any point, that, these major injuries are happening to pitchers. Maybe there's less incentive to sign a pitcher to that kind of deal because you'd rather spend your 10-year contracts on Gunnar and Adley.
Right. I think this, to me, comes back to, why did the Orioles extend the left field wall? They were pretty transparent in their process, and the biggest incentive for them pushing the left field wall back to Timbuktu was that they wanted to be able to entice free agent starting pitchers. And we haven't seen it yet. They traded for Corbin Burnes. The biggest free agent starter that they've signed since moving the wall back was Kyle Gibson, who they signed to a 1-year deal for $10 million. Yeah. I don't know if that wall had anything to do with Kyle Gibson's signing. But when the Orioles pushed that wall back, their thinking was it'll make it a whole lot easier for pitchers to come here and think that they can have a reasonably low ERA, especially left-handed pitchers, but starting pitchers in general. At some point, you are going to have to sign some pitchers. You're not going to be able to, you're going to have to sign players in general. You're not going to be able to build this entire team with homegrown players. I think the reason that we saw the Orioles go out and trade for Corbin Burnes was they understood that the glut and the benefit of their system, the real talent base in their farm system was on the position player side. And so they had to cash those guys in order to get a starting pitcher. I think we'll see them do it again with at the trade deadline because we have yet to see them go out and sign a big time starter. It's a fascinating conversation. I'm curious to see exactly where it goes, but I think it comes back to how much is Rubenstein and his group willing to spend.
Yeah. And
all right, Andy,
I'll give it back to you.
All right, let's talk with Danny Coulombe. You got to get out of here at 1:00. You've got a game to cover tonight. Let's talk Danny Coulombe because this is a bummer of an injury for the Orioles bullpen. It's a bummer for the 34-year-old who has been one of the best left-handed relievers in baseball so far this season. A 2.42 ERA. His WHIP is .615 in 29 appearances this year. 96th percentile according to StatCast in expected ERA. He's striking out batters. He's not walking guys. He's got elbow inflammation. We don't yet know the timetable. And Brandon Hyde said yesterday they're hoping for the best. That's what he said when John Means went down. Elbow inflammation is never a good thing. We're not going to expect anything longer than 15 days in the meantime, but certainly a loss for this Orioles bullpen if Coulombe is going to miss extended time.
Yeah, he's come in and immediately been a high leverage bullpen arm who can pitch against lefties and righties, which is a huge benefit to him with the 3-batter minimum rule. He's not just a lefty guy. He can get everybody out. And he's shown it. He can get everybody out. He's truly one of the best relievers in the game right now. So this is a massive issue, especially because there are not that many. The bullpen ERA is phenomenal, but at the same time, there are not that many guys in that bullpen that you really trust in a high leverage close game. Danny was one of them. Yennier Cano was one of them. Probably CNL Perez, Jacob Webb, and Craig Kimbrell. Probably that's your 5. And then you have 2 others in this 7-man bullpen that are more so for bigger leads or bigger deficits. So he was a really vital piece. They will be hoping that he comes back totally fine in 15 days with, this just being soreness. That lingered a little bit longer. He pitched 2 innings on Saturday, which is when the IL retroactive day was just Saturday. We'll see what this looks like, but it's definitely not a promising development, and it probably increases the urgency for Mike Elias in the front office to look for bullpen help in the trade market.
Yeah, I think that they were already looking, like you said, for one guy before this Danny Coulombe injury because of Craig Kimbrell's up and down season in the closer role. Maybe one other guy who you could ask to close games out if you needed to, at least another high leverage guy, in addition to maybe another starter if you wanted to add somebody if you determine that Cade Povich is not going to be enough and Albert Suarez are not going to be enough to get you through the rest of the season. So this puts increased pressure, I think, on the front office to go out and get a guy because Coulombe has been quietly so dependable, so reliable for Brandon Hyde. 171 batting average for lefties hitting off of him. 130 for righties hitting off of him. Can get guys on both sides of the plate out. And you would like to have somebody like that in a playoff game, like we saw the Orioles go to. They called up Brian Baker, who has a 6.55 ERA, to replace Danny Coulombe for now, but he is not going to be a long-term replacement.
Baker has had 5 scoreless innings in a row, so maybe he can ride a little bit of a hot streak for the time being. Likely not the permanent replacement, as you said.
Yeah. Connor Norby, let's touch on the rookie getting his first taste of big league action and then being sent back down. This was an inevitability. I think that we knew that as soon as Jorge Mateo was ready to go, that he was going to be sent right back down. But I like what I saw from Connor Norby. 3 for 14, had that home run had 2 RBIs, had 3 strikeouts, had no walks. Jorge Mateo is playing at a borderline all-star level right now. 120 OPS plus, great defense at second base. So long as he is healthy, he is going to hold on to second base. But Connor Norby showed that he can hang in the big league level in my mind.
He did, and I don't think the Orioles weren't the only team that was impressed. I imagine a lot of teams around baseball were impressed with a tiny sample size.
Right.
So it's not be all end all, of course, but nice that he showed some power immediately. He got a hit in front of his family and brother. At Tropicana Field that came down to see him for the first time. So all good things, and he looked fine. He looked good. So I think he'll be back at some point in Baltimore. If not in Baltimore, he'll be back in the majors soon with another team, because he might, he could be an incredibly enticing prospect, major league ready prospect for a lot of teams, like Joey Ortiz was for the Milwaukee Brewers when they swung, when the O's swung a deal for Corbin Burns, and Joey has been playing really well. So I think he did himself. He proved himself at the major league level, did himself proud, and next time we see him, it might not necessarily be for the Orioles, but he will be a major leaguer for a long time, I think.
Yeah, and then one other rookie that we're going to see again tonight, Cade Povich, making his second turn in this rotation. Another guy that showed some flashes in his first start, Brandon Hyde, came away impressed. His location needed a little bit of work. He probably was dealing with some kind of nerves, had a hard time locating his pitches at times. But I think that we'll see a much more calm, much more relaxed Cade Povich, hopefully tonight as he makes his Camden Yards debut.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see. And the cool thing is he's going up against a former teammate of his at Nebraska, and his Nebraska coach will be at Camden Yards to see both Spencer Swellenbacher, I think the last name is pronounced. I can allow a Braves fan to correct me on that
Pop
one.
in our comments, yeah.
We'll go with that pronunciation until I correct it later. It should be a good matchup. Cade, I think, pitched better than the final line showed, but you can take a lot of positives from the whirlwind of a debut, and did himself proud. And I think he deserves another start here. And I think he's probably going to get an extended look until the O's either decide to add a starting pitcher via trade, or determine that maybe Cade doesn't stick in it, results wise. But I think he will get an extended look, because he is he's playing really well, and well, at least in AAA, was pitching really well. His last start before he got called up, I think it was a little bit in his head a little bit. I talked to people around him, and definitely realized that he's kind of pitching for a major league promotion, and that adds a lot of pressure on a guy. And he might have been overthrowing some of his pitches, which leads to missing spots. So when he gets back to settles down a little bit, I think it could be a great fit.
Absolutely. Well, he will get the ball tonight for the Orioles in Game 2 of this series against the Braves. I didn't think we were going to do it, but Andy, we got you out of here at 1:00. Amazing. Subscribe to the BaltimoreBanner.com, where you can read all of Andy's great work. Just $1 for 6 months. And of course, subscribe to the Banner Baseball Show. Tell your friends about it. Write us a good review. We appreciate it. For Andy Kostka, I'm Paul Mancano. Thanks so much for tuning in.